I'm not going to be making a wreath. That's not why I'm on here. I want to share something personal that I've been dealing with. I've been a little MIA from my Facebook page. Not full on MIA, but a little bit. Something that I've been dealing with. I kind of had, I don't know where to start. It was very hard for me to do this live. When I brought it up, it took me a few minutes to push the button to go live. I'm like, I don't think I can do this. But last Wednesday, I guess, is the best place to start, and then I could get more into the history. Last Wednesday, I went to Hobby Lobby, and I wanted to do the live last Wednesday, but I was a little emotional because of what I was dealing with, and I didn't think I could do the live. I knew I couldn't do the live without getting emotional on the live, so I've waited until I've kind of gotten settled down, and so I feel, I guess, like I'm more able to do the live today without getting all emotional and everything. But I guess the best place to start was last Wednesday. I went to Hobby Lobby because I was going to buy paint. The paint was on sale, and I've been getting orders for the flower centers that I make, that I paint. But a few days before I went to Hobby Lobby, I was experiencing trouble with feeling overwhelmed and not being able to focus on things. And there was just so much going on with me. I guess the best to say is mentally, because I have right temporal lobe brain damage and right frontal lobe encephalomalacia that I have to deal with, and that can affect like comprehension. I have trouble with comprehending things a lot of times. Like if I'm talking to someone and they're saying something to me, I have trouble at times comprehending what they're saying, so they have to repeat it a few times before my brain finally gets what they're saying to me. And and then sometimes if there's a lot going on around me, I can't comprehend what's going on around me, and it can cause me to feel overwhelmed and anxious. And so I was dealing with that last week. Last Wednesday when I was at Hobby Lobby, I was in the paint section, and I was looking at the paint, and I had a list of the paint colors that I needed and stuff, but I kept looking at the list, I kept looking at the paint, and I didn't know what I was doing. I'm not incompetent, so I don't want you guys it's not that I'm incompetent, it's just that it's things that I have to deal with. But I was standing there looking at my list and looking at the paint, and I was having a hard time knowing what I was going to get, and I just didn't know how to deal with that. But I got overwhelmed, so I had to walk away. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional. I had to walk away from the paint section and go into the bathroom. And you know how they have the big stall in the back? I went into that stall, and I had to get in the corner and squat and just sit there for a few minutes and try to get my thoughts back. And after I sat there for a while, I finally got my thoughts back and got everything together. But I finally got things together, and I didn't leave Hobby Lobby with everything that I needed because I had trouble dealing with that. But, there were a few things I got, but I really didn't leave with a lot of things that I needed because of that. But more along why I do this, what problems I have. Like I said, in 94, I was in that car accident, and I don't remember what happened with the car accident. I have selective amnesia, so I don't remember how I wrecked. and I was going to Eastern Kentucky University, and I had a son at home who wasn't even a year old, and so that's why I was driving back and forth, even though it was over an hour drive for me one way. And it was like 8 o'clock that morning when I was driving, and I was doing summer classes. I was driving to classes that morning, and like I said, I don't remember. The last thing I remember is coming off the parkway onto an exit, and when I stopped at the top of the exit to look both ways to make sure nothing was coming before I pulled out, I looked at the clock in my car and it said 8:03. That's the last thing I remember, and it was like 2 or 3 miles from that when I had my car accident, and I don't remember anything from that point for that next 2 to 3 miles. I don't remember any of it at all, but I drove off somehow. I ended up going over a 30-foot embankment. There was a large fence because it was like a farm, someone's farm, and there were gigantic fence posts. And when I come over the embankment, like I said, I don't remember, but from what I was told and from seeing my car afterward, my car flipped. I know that my car flipped a few times, and I wasn't like thrown because my windshield, even though it was shattered, it was still intact. But my car started flipping, and from what I gather from, like I said, the way when I saw my car, I wasn't in the car when they found me, and one of the first responders, because at that time I never wore my seatbelt, and one of the first responders told my mom that if I'd had my seatbelt on, that I would have been killed in that car accident. And the reason being is, like I said, my car flipped and it squashed my car, and totally squashed it. And there were these huge fence posts that went through my passenger side door. So it was a long time because I was bedridden after the accident, so I didn't get around a lot. But when I saw the car, I about dropped to my knees because I just could not believe that I survived that. But why I survived was because when the fence post came, this is what I think happened. I don't know any other explanation. When the fence post came through the door, it actually came through the door, not the window, but the actual door. I figure that it must have, because there's like 2 fence posts, that they must have pushed me, hit me and pushed me out my driver's door. Because like I said, the windshield was shattered, but it was still in the frame. So I wasn't thrown through the windshield. And I didn't have my seatbelt on, like I said. And so what I figure is that I was pushed out of the car from the fence post. And when I was pushed out of the car, I hit one of the fence posts, and I hit it with my back and the back of my head. And I hit it so hard that, our cervical spine has a curve to it. And I hit the fence post so hard that it completely straightened my cervical spine. Now, and I've had x-rays since then and MRIs and stuff. It's straight. And it also split my skull, and I had to have staples in my head from here down to the base of my head. And the reason I think the fence post pushed me out is because my pelvic bone was completely crushed. The lower part of my spine was broke, my hips were, and that's one of the reasons I was bedridden. I wasn't able to move. And at that time, I spent days, I don't know how many days in the hospital. A lot of that's a blur for me. I guess I was in and out of consciousness. I don't really remember. I had the concussion and all that stuff. But I got sent home, and I was living with my mom at the time, and I had my son. He wasn't even a year old. And they had to get a twin-size bed and put it in the living room because my bedroom was upstairs and I couldn't go upstairs. And they needed me to where they could watch me and all that. And then my mom had to take my son's crib and put it in her bedroom because she had to take care of him. I couldn't even hold him or anything. And he couldn't get on the bed with me because of the damage and, him crawling on me or anything could have caused things worse. And the doctors told my mom that I was not to sit up, I wasn't to do anything, that I was just supposed to lay flat on my back. And my mom, this was very hard thing. My mom had to bath me. She had to buy one of those bath sponges that you get for a newborn baby or for a baby that you lay in the tub that you can lay them on. She had to buy one of those for me, and so she could lay me in the tub and bath me. And then when I did get around, I had to use a walker, and it was a long time. I don't know how long I was bedridden before I could finally get up and start moving around. And like I said, when I did finally get to go see the car, it was just shocking to me. And it was, like I said, it was only by God's grace that I survived that. But anyways, after that, I started having seizures. I'd never had seizures before. And I've always had migraines I don't want to say my entire life, but since I was a little girl in elementary school, I started having migraines. And they were very debilitating because they would cause me to go blind and things. And the doctors would have to give me injections that would knock me out for like almost 24 hours for me to get over that. But there for a time after I'd gotten older, my migraines had seemed to have gotten better. They were less frequent. But after the car accident, they started getting more frequent and worse. And I started having cluster headaches on my right side. And so I started seeing a new neurologist. That happened in 94, and it was 2004, and I had been dealing with a lot of things. When I was going to college, I was having a hard time dealing with homework, and I was a big English reading nerd. That was my favorite subject, and I loved doing research papers. I loved when I was going to college to just go hang out at the library and read. And then my favorite thing was when teachers would assign us research papers, and I could just spend hours in the library researching and writing. And I actually started writing poetry when I was in high school. One of my English teachers got me, it was actually my sophomore year, had a meeting with me, and she told me I was a very good writer and that I should think about making that as like a career. But I used to write a lot of poetry. A lot of poetry. I've had some published in books that are in the Library of Congress. I think I have about 8. I have copies of the books too that they're published in. And but after the accident, I started having trouble with concentrating and being able to organize and categorize things and comprehending things. And I'd always been like a straight A student in college, and my grades, they didn't I was still making A's and B's, but it was hard for me. I was having to put in that extra work. And then at the time in 2004, because I had quit going to college there for a while after my accident, but then when I went back, I was having the trouble with that, and I was experiencing tremors. And this neurologist who I actually went to for the migraines, and she discovered that I was having seizures. I don't really remember what caused her to do an EEG on me to check for seizures, but she decided to do that, and it affirmed that I was having those seizures. And then after that, she's like, well, I want to do an MRI on your brain. And so she sent me to have an MRI on my brain, and it came back showing that I had the the damage to my brain, and that explained a lot. Because I was starting to feel like, well, even for years, I felt like I was stupid and I didn't understand what was going on. I it affected my confidence really bad because I had a very hard time having conversations with people. Because like I said, I have trouble comprehending what people say to me. And then even when I talk, I have trouble sometimes placing words. Like an example, my husband and I were shopping one time, and we were in the women's section looking at shirts and things, and there was a shirt that I liked. Now, pointing out to him, I was going to say, I like this shirt. Instead of saying I like this shirt, I said, I like this moose. I'm like, where'd that come? It's like, but that wasn't the first time I'd done that. It's just something that I had been dealing with. But if you can imagine, it's like, where do these words come from? I wasn't even thinking about a moose. Why would I say that word when I was going to say, I like this shirt? And so it wasn't something I could control. And then, and like I said, when a lot of things start happening around me, sometimes I can get confused because I can't comprehend it, and I just have to kind of stop. It made me just want to put my hands over my ears and close my eyes and just wait for everything to stop so I can categorize things and what's going on. But, and then people around me who saw me every day, they didn't know what was going on, and they didn't understand what was going on with me, and I had memory problems. Like, I would do something or say something, and I wouldn't remember that, and they would say, well, you said this, or you did this. I'd be like, no, I didn't. And we would have arguments over this because I could not remember these things. And a good example is my husband. One time when we were in the living room and I was sitting on the couch, and my husband come walking through the kitchen, and I looked at him and I'm like, where have you been? And he's like, I was sitting beside you just a few minutes ago. I'm like, no, you weren't. And then we got in an argument. I'm like, I swear you were not just sitting by me. I just saw you come walking through the kitchen. But the kids are like, yeah, he was just in here, and I couldn't remember that. So I dealt with a lot of that, and it felt like I was losing my mind, and like I was just, like I said, plain stupid. I didn't understand what was going on because I, was smart. At least I thought I was. But my grades at school said I was, and I used to be able, like I said, to write and all that, and I actually took creative writing in college, and we had to write a short memoir, and I wrote mine, and I got called into my professor's. He wrote me a letter and told me he wanted to have a meeting with me, and so I went to his office for that meeting, and I thought that I had done something wrong with my memoir or whatever. But when I got in there, he told me how good it was and how impressed he was with it. And his exact words were, he looked at me and he said, I want to see this as a book on a shelf when I walk into a bookstore one day. So that was very reaffirming to me at that time that I was meant to be a writer. And so I had planned on writing the book, and I even worked on it after that for a long time, and I still have a lot. I still have everything I've written on that, but I've never been able to finish it because, like I said, I can't concentrate. I can't sit down long enough and concentrate to do it, and I have trouble with words and all this, so I've never been able to finish it. But getting back to Wednesday, when I was in Hobby Lobby, like I said, I went there to buy paint for the centers because I have orders, and I've gotten all my orders finished. I'm just waiting for the paint to cure so I could seal them and send them out to the people who've ordered them. And but I went to Hobby Lobby to buy some paint and things for those, and I left there that day not getting what I needed because that happened. And I don't understand why sometimes it happens worse than other times. Like right now, my craft room is very cluttered and piled up. And my husband and my daughter keep telling me that I need to get it organized and all this. And I know I need to get it organized. But when I walk in that room and I see all that clutter, I turn around and I just walk back out because I'm like, I don't even know where to start. I can't focus. I can't even think about organizing it because I don't know where to start. And I tell them that I need help to organize it. And so right now it's just a mess in there. And like when I look at the house and there are things that need to be done, but I look and I see clutter and all this stuff and I just can't, I'm like, I can't deal with this. It's just too much. Because I have trouble with the organization, the categorizing, and all of that. And I continue, I'll tell my daughter and my husband, I need help. I wish I could afford to have someone come in and help me. I mean, if I had someone to help me alongside me clean and do these things, I need someone to keep me focused on it and organized. I could do these things, but when I'm by myself, I just have a very hard time doing it. So I think that's what happened with Wednesday, because the first few days of the week, last week, with my room being a mess, and there were things that we've been dealing with around the house, and it's just kind of, it's not really out of control, but when I see it, I feel like it's out of control, so I just kind of want to walk away from it and not deal with it because I can't categorize it. And so I think last Wednesday that had just built up on me, and when I'd gotten to Hobby Lobby, it was just finally it, because I was walking around Hobby Lobby, and when I got to the paint section, there was just so many, it's like there were so many choices of the colors and the paint and all that, and I had a list of what colors I wanted, but I was looking at the list and I was looking at the shelves and stuff with this paint and going back and forth. I'm just like, I couldn't do it. I just could not stand there and look at this. I didn't know. It's not that I didn't understand. I knew what I needed to do, but I couldn't focus on it and I couldn't comprehend it. So I had to walk away. And like I said, I went into the bathroom and I just had to get in that corner and just sit there. And I was really upset. And when I left the bathroom, I just left Hobby Lobby and I went out in the car, and I cried. And I felt at that time, I wanted to share it. I'm like, maybe I could share this and be an encouragement or something, because no matter how hard this is that I have to deal with, I still live a good life. I still do things like, well, you guys have seen the wreaths that I've made and the things that I've created. The only way I can do that is by God giving me the creativity, because I couldn't do that on my own. There's no way. So God has blessed me with that. I mean, that is the only way I could do what I do with the wreaths that I make and the stuff that I make. God gives me this imagination and creativity. But like I said, I think, and I wanted to share it that day because that's when I was raw in that. But I wouldn't have been able to because I was just too upset and I was, crying and all that. And I knew if I got on and do a video, I wouldn't be able to get through the video because I probably wouldn't have been able to talk because I was so upset and crying and everything. And even since last Wednesday, I've been wanting to do the video, but I have been emotional even, each day when I thought about doing the video, I would get emotional and I just knew I couldn't get through the video. But then today, being here at the house, I'm home alone because my daughter and husband are at work. And I thought, well, I'm going to do this today because I've calmed down and I'm not as vulnerable as I was last week. But before I started, it took me a while. It took me a few minutes to finally push that button to go live because I feel very vulnerable and it's scary to share something like this. But I think I need to because it's part of who I am. And I've always wanted my followers to truly know who I am, because I think that builds a trust between me and my followers. And I do put my heart into everything I make, and I'm very attentive because I want people to be satisfied and really happy with what I create for them and send them. I think building trust like this, letting you guys see little bits and pieces of who I am, helps build that trust. And so that's why I wanted to do this. And also I wanted to do this as a testimony to what God has, what he does for me every day. Actually, I mean, he saved me from that deadly car accident that I should have died in. He saved me, and I know he saved me for a purpose. And there for a long time, I didn't know what that purpose was. And then I got saved in 2006, and I started realizing, my purpose is to give glory to God. And so that's why I think sharing testimony is important, so that he gets all the glory. It's him, like I said, giving me the imagination and the creativity. And so I try to every day give all the glory to him. And I'm very alert and attentive to the creation around me, and that inspires me. Like when I see a flower or anything, that just makes me grateful to God that I'm able to see that flower and see him in that flower. And because I know that he is the creator of everything, so I could experience all these things, like seeing a rainbow, and like I said, seeing a flower. That's like with my Ophelia flower. The dahlia flowers that I have out in my front yard is what inspired my Ophelia flower, because I think it's just so beautiful. And I wanted to take that beauty from that flower the best I could and put it into a creation. And God was the one who gave me the ideal and the imagination and the creativity to do that. And then with the center, that's how I came up with doing the dirty pours on the center, because the bud of a flower, when a flower is budding, it's closed and then they start opening up. So I wanted something that was kind of roundish formed or whatever, and I wanted something unique, and I hadn't seen anyone do the dirty pours for the centers like that. And just, I was laying in bed, it took me, because I was thinking, what can I do for this flower to make it unique, and which is already unique in its own way, because I hadn't seen a petal like what I came up with. I hadn't seen a flower like what I came up with. And so it is already unique in its own way, but I wanted something else. And so it took me over a week, and I was just like, what can I do? And I was laying in bed one night, and all of a sudden I got this idea, because I was following these acrylic pours. I was watching a lot of videos on YouTube, and I'm in a couple of acrylic pour groups and things. And I got this idea. I'm like, oh my goodness, I could do this for a center. I could because I was using, you buy these styrofoam spheres or balls, and I was using them to to glue ribbon on, the braided ribbon or burlap, to make these centers for the sunflowers and things. And I thought, I could take that and I could do a pour on it. And I had an idea of how I wanted it to look. And I could do that to this sphere, and it would be unique because I've never seen anything like that before. And the only way that came to me was by God. It's really something that I put myself into the flower and put myself into that because God gave me that. And so with everything I make, it's all to show what he's done for me, because with the car accident, I survived that only by his grace. And then I went through a hard time after that with dealing with the being bedridden at that age, I was very headstrong and I was very independent. That was hard for me to go. It was humiliating for me at that time. And I become very combative and angry and hard to deal with going through all of that. And I look back at that now and, I hate that I was that way. But at that time, I wasn't saved and I didn't know God and I didn't understand about His grace and His mercy and all that. And I was just very resentful because at that time I thought my life was going good. I was in college. I was going to graduate with this degree. I was going to make something of my life so I could give my children the best that I could, because I grew up poor. And it wasn't for the fault of my mom, because my mom's a hard worker. She's always been a hard worker, and she did the best she could to support us and give us, what we needed. But I always wanted to give my children more. So at that time, I had my son. I was going to college. I was going to get this degree. I had a plan for my life. And that all got sidetracked when I had this accident. And I had to quit college for a while. And then after I got better or whatever, I got a job for a while to support my son. And then we had a daughter, and then we got divorced, and I was a single mom for a while. And my daughter was born with a genetic disorder, which if you followed me since like last year or since the beginning of this year, I did some lives making wreaths for Rare Disease Day, and I talked about my daughter's genetic disorder. So I was a single mom, and I had my son at the time when I had my daughter was he was getting ready to turn 4, because I had her like 4 days before my son's birthday. And she was very sick growing up, and at one time I was a single mom. I was working. I was going to college because I finally decided in 98 that I was going to go back to college and I was going to finish my degree. And so I did. And even though I had all this going on, I still managed to graduate with A's and B's. The lowest grade I ever got in college was a D, and that was in history, and that's because history is like my worst subject. I hate history. But I still was able to graduate with A's and B's, and that was despite of the brain injury. That's because I put extra work into what I was doing. I mean, it was harder for me and it took longer, but I still did it, and it's only because, God helped me through that. But at the time, I didn't see that it was Him giving me His grace and His mercy to do that, because I didn't get saved until 2006. But, so despite the brain injury, I was able to do that. But for some reason, I graduated in 2001, and even though I was dealing with, because after the accident, I also started experiencing fibromyalgia. And so we believe all of this came from the brain injury. My neurologist, the fibromyalgia, the damage, and the seizures, the tremors, because I do have essential tremors. I live with restless leg syndrome now, and all this I didn't have before the accident. And so, they believe that it came from the accident. But I also went through periods of depression, and just it caused a lot of problems. I'm kind of getting sidetracked here. But I mean, I have more that I could testify to. I'm not going to do it all in this video because that would take too long. But this video is about last Wednesday, what I was dealing with. And I get through the day only because of God's grace and mercy, and depending on Him and seeing Him in everything, and knowing that He's the one who guides me through the day. And even though there are times like last Wednesday when I feel like I can't do this, and I have to just walk away from things for a few minutes or for a while, because my mind just gets confused and everything. It does settle down, and I can turn around and I can go back to it. And I'm able to do that because God clears my mind and helps me and gives me the strength and ability to go do it. So I can't do it on my own. And I know I'm probably rambling on right now, but and I'm sure that there are other crafters out there who deal with the overwhelmed. We can get overwhelmed at times. I mean, there are times when I can get overwhelmed in my mind. I get all these ideals that I want, things I want to do and create. Like right now, there's like about 2 or 3 wreaths that I really want to make, and I haven't had time to make them because I'm doing other things. But I want to be able to take time to do them, and I feel rushed. I want to hurry up and do it, but I can't. And so I can get overwhelmed wanting to do this, and it kind of can be too much. I'm sure there are some of you that deal with the same things as crafters. And I'm not just saying crafters, anyone in general in life can become overwhelming for all of us at times. I believe you guys can understand some of what I have to deal with, but I want to be an encouragement to you guys, and also be an encouragement to myself that it's okay that I deal with this. It's okay. It doesn't make me any less of a person, because there for a long time, before I knew that it was the brain damage that was doing this, I was like, what's wrong with me? You know, like I said, I felt stupid. I felt less of a person. I felt worthless. I didn't think I could do anything because I didn't know I had this brain injury, and the people around me didn't understand. And so there were people in my family that they, at that time before we found out what was causing it, there were some people who would get frustrated with me and like, what is wrong with you? Or why are you doing this? They didn't understand. And so it was just a lot of stuff going on, a lot of emotion and a lot of mental stress and anxiety and things. And then, but after I found out that it was the brain damage, it did make me feel better about myself. And it's like, okay, I know what this is. I've got to deal with this. I've got to learn new ways to handle this, new ways to do things that my brain damage was giving me problems with. And so I had to become more determined, and I believed going through this did to appreciate things, daily things, and not take anything for granted. The experiences I have, I'm the kind of person, when I'm experiencing stuff, I just want to take it all in, all of it. I want to be in that moment and enjoy it and not take any of it for granted. Or I love to sometimes, because I'm big in photography, which I never used to be big in photography, but after I got saved and I started appreciating God's creation and everything, I got into photography to capture the beauty in what He's created. So sometimes when I'm here at the house and if I feel overwhelmed, I just need to, I'll get my camera, I'll go outside and I'll walk around the house or around the woods or down the road, and I'll just start taking pictures of flowers, or I've even taken pictures of spiders and bumblebees and just things that's out there, butterflies, and that helps to clear my mind. And like a few days ago when I was still dealing with the overwhelm from this, I had to stop everything in the house because it was just too much to stop. And I saw all this stuff, and I'm just like, I can't deal with this. I can't focus on this right now. So I put everything down. I stopped everything. I went outside and I just walked around the yard. I went to our barn and I sat down because I just wanted to sit there, and I prayed, and I just tried to, ease my mind and everything. And I started hearing these birds they were in the barn, and they were like singing. It sounded like they were singing back and forth to each other. And I recorded it, and it was where it was in the barn. It was echoing, and it was just so beautiful. It was like I said, it sounded like they were singing in the barn, just like emphasized it, made it grander. Like, I was hearing this singing, like, and it just brought me peace. It made me feel so much better. And so when I came back into the house, my mind was more calm, and I was more able to focus. And so, like I said, I'm doing better today than I was last week. And so that's why I wanted to get on here today. Why I'm getting on here today is I can get overwhelmed at times when, like I said, when I see there's just too much busyness and my mind can't comprehend it. So I do need to take a break. And so that's why I've been a little MIA from my Facebook page. I mean, I've been on and I've posted a few things, but not as much as I normally do. So I just wanted to get in, pop in and talk to you guys about that and why. And I just wanted to share that, you know, to give God glory for this. And I pray that people, my followers, can see me and, like I said, hear my testimony and see God's work through me. All you guys that stick with me and continue to watch me and follow me, and you guys give me encouragement and you guys support me, and that means so much to me. I mean, there are some of you who have been following me since my very first live, which was like at the end of last year. I think it might have been November or December. And I know you by name, and I feel connected to you, and I keep getting more followers. And if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. But so you guys encourage me and you give me support, and that helps a lot. So it means a lot. And I just want to thank all of you who have stuck with me and who watch my lives and who give me kind words. I mean, that gives me inspiration too. So hopefully that I could have encouraged someone or something through this video. I know it encourages me a little bit. How it does that is it reminds me where God has brought me from. I think remembering the hard things that we've been through and then seeing where we are now, like what I've been through, and then seeing where I am now, it makes me so much more thankful for the things I've been through, because that's made me who I am today. And today I'm just more thankful and appreciative than I've ever been in my life. But hopefully I didn't ramble on too long, and hopefully this gave you guys a little bit of a look into who I am, and getting to know me more so you can trust in me more. I always try to be very attentive to you guys. That's very important to me. I guess that's all for now. I'll let you guys go for now. Thank you for watching, and I really appreciate it. And until next time, I hope you have a blessed rest of the week. And I guess I'll say bye for now. So talk to you guys later.